Welcome back to our channel. We'll be discussing the action film Revenant by Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hardy today. Men are camped out by a riverbed on the fringes of a forest. When they had concluded their hunt and were getting ready to prepare the animal skin for sale as leather, a naked guy suddenly appeared and yelled for help before collapsing to the ground. He is hit by an arrow on his back. Another guy is struck in the neck by arrows as they begin to fly, and he collapses next to the campfire. The guys start to get cautious, grasp onto their guns, and begin to move backwards cautiously. One guy is shot and killed as he rushes to open ground. As a bunch of individuals raced at them in full-blown conflict, the other guys took refuge behind woods. The disturbance alerted the movie's main character, Glass, and he fled to hell. As more attackers coming, the commander ordered his soldiers to escape inside their boat on the river for safe since they were outnumbered. The guys fled in the direction of the boats, but the majority were murdered before they could arrive. They were forced to abandon the folks who had not arrived after they boarded the boats in order to save their own lives. The invaders destroyed the camp and looted the corpses for everything precious. They are members of the American Indian tribe known as the Ray. The daughter of the chief was abducted by European outsiders, and the Ray Indians are looking for her. They are among the few survivors who made it out alive. Some suffer severe wounds, while others die away as a result. The navigator, Glass, was well versed in these forests. He advised them to get off the boat since the Ray Indians would flank and ambush them again farther downstream. This strategy is not Fitzgerald's, but the captain had already made up his mind. Together with their Pelton horse, they get off the boat. Fitzgerald is whining and still disapproving of the strategy. He is more worried about losing the pelts than he is about losing more lives as they are being carried up the cliff. He goes to Blast's half-Native American son Hawk and criticizes him, but Blast maintains his composure and is not overreacting while defending his kid. They launched the boat downstream later that evening to draw attention away from themselves in case they were being pursued. Glass' idea really did work out, as it turns out. Fortunately, no one was still alive when the actual Indians pursued and intercepted the canoe downstream. Glass in the men's forward-moving footpath. Glass makes a practice of patrolling the woods to look out for any possible threats. A distance away, he lifts his rifle to his face and prepares to fire when he notices two bear. He was knocked to the ground as the mother bear suddenly appeared from behind. Biting and scratching him, it drags his body hopelessly against the ground. The bear is too huge and powerful for him to successfully defend himself. It throws and drags him on the ground as he yells in anguish while using its large claws to tear open his back. He pretends to be dead and keeps quiet as long as he can to trick the bear. Glass has the chance to escape as the bear departs to check on her cats. He tries, but he can only manage a short distance of ground crawling. He goes for his pistol instead. He hardly has the strength to support it. Once the bear becomes aware that he is still alive, Glass fired the gun as the bear charged back and was shot in the face. This simply serves to enrage the bear more, who then attacked, mauled him alive, tore portions of flesh off his back, and dragged his corpse viciously over the ground. To determine if he is still alive, it rolls him over and sniffs his face. Blast plays dead once again as the bear leaves. When it strikes once again, he uses this opportunity to grab a knife out of his pocket. The bear dies on top of the now half-dead Bless after he repeatedly stabs it in the neck, causing him to tumble over a cliff. Glass is eventually discovered by the other guys remaining underneath the dead bear. He is still alive after the bear that was sitting on top of him is removed. His open wounds are causing intense bleeding all throughout his body. Carrying Glass becomes much more challenging as winter approaches than it already was. His health was deteriorating rapidly. The captain was unable to do anything else. He points a revolver at him while wearing glasses and covering his face with a handkerchief. Hawk begged them not to murder his father, and they had to restrain him. If not, the captain would not be able to. They had only managed to survive up to this time because of Glass. The captain had a superior thought. The other guys continue ahead and send a rescue squad for him, while 3 men are to be left behind to take care of Glass. Hawk and Jim kindly offer their help. Fitzgerald volunteers when he hears there is money involved. Fitzgerald creates a hole in the dirt. Later, while everyone else was absent, Fitzgerald sees an opportunity to carry out his long-planned strategy. He had intended to murder Glass. Fitzgerald tightened the cords holding Glass. To suffocate Glass, he puts a piece of cloth in his mouth and covers his nose. Hawk appears out of nowhere and shoots Fitzgerald in the head. He cries out for help, but it is too far away. The youngster is overcome by Fitzgerald, who has his mouth covered and pushed up against a tree. Then, while Glass witnesses the whole incident, he stabs Hawk in the stomach. Hawk dies after falling to the ground. Fitzgerald drags him away as he hides his crime. Glass cries but does little else for his kid as he witnesses the horrific act. When Jim returns, while trying to report Fitzgerald, Blasters, unable to speak, simply act unaware of Hawk Fitzgerald's whereabouts when Jim inquires about him. Fitzgerald is enraged by Jim's refusal to leave Glass behind. As a result, he uncovers Glass, grabs him by the legs, takes him over the ice ground to the hole he already dug, and pulls him into. He buries him alive. This is not something Jim supports. Fitzgerald flees, leaving Jim with a difficult decision. He places a water bottle on top of Glass, apologizes and quickly departs. When Glass awakens many hours later, he is still alive. He pulls himself out of the small hole with what little power he has left. He carries his dead corpse across the ground to the scene of his son's murder. His blood is still clearly visible on the ice, but he continues to crawl because he is desperate to reach his kid. His face portrays the horror he saw as he pauses. The corpse of his son was lying there. He takes his son's necklace off and bids him farewell. Eventually exits the trees. The Ray Indians are just barely in front of them. The Hawk's corpse and new blood are discovered, and they understand they must go near to it to stop the bleeding. Blast starts a fire, adds gunpowder, and burns his neck wounds in the distance. The captain and his soldiers are still not there. He makes an attempt to rise up but fails, and while he reclines on the riverbed, the Ray Indians close in. He backs towards the river and makes an attempt to hide behind a cliff, but he has been spotted leaping into the swiftly flowing river as the genuine Indians fire arrows at him. He falls under a waterfall due to the first flowing currents and attempts to swim out but is unsuccessful. Fortunately, he finds and hangs onto a floating wood after coming dangerously close to drowning, but last is able to swim out in the end. His clothing has been submerged in icy water. Before he freezes to death, Glass is able to start a fire to keep himself warm. Fitzgerald and Jim, on the other hand, succeed in reaching their goal. They speak directly with the captain before Fitzgerald lies to him about what took place. Jim is not pleased with the news, but his version of events is inaccurate. Bless slips up behind him and snatches his rifle. He is being held captive by the girl as she removes a knife from his pocket and proceeds to take a horse from them. The horse's ruckus alerts the other guys. Glass breaks all the other horses free before mounting one and fleeing. Jim had given him a water bottle, which he drops. The chief's daughter had managed to flee the vicious guys in Glass and was uninjured. As Glass slept, he was overtaken by the Ray Indians. They start shooting at him as soon as they catch him off guard. He struggles to mount his horse and ride away. The Ray Indians are right behind him and are coming at him from all sides. He falls down the cliff after tumbling. Fortunately, tree limbs in the snow soften his fall, saving his life, but his horse perished from the impact. He is trembling as the temperature drops. He is just thinking about one thing. Fitzgerald had to pay in the fort for killing his kid. Glass discovers fire remnants at a camping site where Fitzgerald was, and he knew he was not far on the other side. They break up the split to cover more ground. Fitzgerald emerges from concealment while aiming a pistol at the captain. The captain is attempting to remove a revolver from his belt when he hears a shot being fired. He immediately mounts his horse and rides to the scene to investigate. He discovers a dead corpse in the snow. When Fitzgerald saw them from a distance while hiding and waited for Glass, he sniped and shot down the guy on the lead horse and believed he had killed Glass. Last shot him in the shoulder as he drew nearer. Fitzgerald attempts to flee, but Glass swiftly grabs his pistol and pursues him. Glass follows Fitzgerald closely as he runs through deep snow on a steep slope. As they approach an area of sparsely spaced trees, Glass is holding his rifle ready to fire. Fitzgerald attempts to hit the explosion but fails. He drops his rifle in an effort to move more quickly. He tumbles and slides down a short slope, and without pausing, Blast dives after him. There were no other places to flee. Fitzgerald was hemmed in. He attempts to explain to Glass, but he won't listen. As he stands face to face with the guy who murdered his son, bless him, holding an axe while Fitzgerald has a knife, they rush at each other at the beginning of a fight, and you can feel the rage on his face. Fitzgerald is taken by the Ray Indians, who arrive out of nowhere and thrown into the river. He is immediately brought to the Ray Indians, who are more than pleased to murder him. The three Indians avoided hitting Glass because they had discovered that the chief's daughter, who had assisted Blast in escaping, had received his closure. For more, kindly like and subscribe.